That's awesome.
remote DJ on Spotify.
That's
We
great.
had the last one shot, James Page, and James, what the hell's wrong? Where'd you get this damn playlists from? Like, I'm geeking out on it. Like, well,
That's awesome.
technology, man.
No viewers, at least.
Get in there, guys.
It's fine.
Why, yo?
If someone can hear me, that's fine.
Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Welcome.
Can you hear Hugo okay back there?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
All right.
Are you hot? What? Oh, I can have them unlock the doors. Yeah, it's easy. I just tell them to unlock them. I usually do. Thank you for reminding me. Appreciate it.
Oh, we're getting one viewer.
One viewer.
Yay. Say
Could be
hello
just
to the one viewer. We don't know who it is. All right, we have 8 viewers now. 8. Yeah. 9. That's great. Hello, everyone. Yeah, we're going to start really soon. I can see the amount of viewers. Yeah.
I didn't know if you could type it into icon.
Uh, yeah, I don't know. Yeah. Can anyone hear me online? If someone can type or do anything. No one is answering, so
I'm asking them right now.
apparently the microphone is working here. So hello, welcome.
I didn't know that we're gonna get started shortly online community. Like I said, they can hear you, so I know what you're
Awesome.
saying.
That's great. Glad you guys can hear me. How you guys doing today? Yeah. Who drove more than an hour? Just put your hands up. Alrighty, that's cool. 15 minutes. All right. Oh well, no. If you walked for an hour, man, that's great. It's good exercise right there, right?
So I say 4 more minutes. So 4 more minutes online, and then
4 more minutes, guys, and we'll be starting this. I'm sorry.
I'm just stoked that it's working.
Yeah, yeah, it's great. We got like around 20 viewers already.
You guys, your privacy settings on Facebook, you post it to your wall too.
I I want to post in my wall, but I forgot my password because it's always automatically in my computer. So I'll just I'll just share it from here.
Jim is our resident ZBrush artist, substance designer, advocate.
Hi, how's it going? Nice to meet you. Just one more minute, guys. We're gonna be starting soon. Doing good, thank you. Appreciate how you guys doing. Good. Oh no, thank you for you guys to hear me out. That's awesome. I'm actually sending my wife a message for her to watch me online. Welcome. Start. Yeah. Alrighty. You wanna?
Guys, this is Hugo Fire.
Yep.
Fire. And came up
Bayer.
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 Is joining us today. He works at Radio Dawn. He's a senior environment artist there, and he's also a huge advocate. He specializes in textures. And the reason why we're doing this workshop today is to showcase Substance Designer, which is a software that we're hoping will take off. And he's going to give you a great introduction to Substance Designer.
Yep.
So a round of applause for Hugo from over there.
Thank you. So I'd like to start with a bit of introduction about myself and where did I start. But before I start anything, I just want to know how many people are here are students, and how many people are here actually working in the industry. Okay, working. Awesome. All right, and the viewers on the stream, they're not going to be able to tell me, but it's good to know. And who actually heard about procedural texturing? Could you guys put your hands up? Who actually works with it? Okay, so you can see how many people actually never play with it and how many people actually are doing something with it. All right, so I started back in 2003, so 2002, I think. It was like 13 years of experience in the game industry. And today I'm going to talk about procedural materials, and this is my name, of course. And this is actually my city right there in Brazil. It's called Curitiba. I'm not sure if anyone heard about it. It's about 9 million people, I think. And in this city, where it's where I started in the game industry. I started with like casual games in a very indie style of things, and um, games in Flash, games in like JavaScript and all that stuff, all in 2D. So I didn't even work on 3D at all. Do you have a question? Oh, okay. Welcome. How's it going? And yeah, this is name of my city. It's kind of hard to spell, as you can see, Curitiba. And this casual companies that I worked on, they were really small. Mostly were not even the size of 20 people. The first company I worked on, I was an intern at Continuum Entertainment, which was like 5 to 10 people most. And we ended up creating a game for McDonald's, which was a side scroller game for their marketing team. And we ended up creating a project that unfortunately didn't sell called Project Inferno. And that project, we ended up working for about a year on it, and we thought that we could sell it to and pitch to someone. Unfortunately, no company wanted to, and I learned a lot from it. And then after jumping between other little small companies, I ended up getting to freelance. This is where I actually felt that I started on the industry as doing a freelance, because whenever you do freelance, you end up getting so many skills, and you have to be fast enough to finish the projects. You have to, get to talk to the clients. And to be honest, talking to a clientele is not that easy, and finding the prices of your hour pay is also really hard. So all that time where I spent on freelancing time, it was one of a huge jump on my career, and that's why it got me here in US, where a company that I was doing freelance for, they set up a visa so I could come to US and work here. Um, in US, it was called the company called Abandon Interactive, and I probably you guys probably never heard of the game. It's called Freaky Creatures. No one ever heard of that? Okay, good. I know you guys wouldn't hear anyway. So it was a small game. It was an MMORPG, And the game was unfortunately not so successful as well. As you can understand, in our careers, we go up and down, right? And the freelance time, I was getting a lot of money. It was fine. It was great. And whenever I came to US, this company just went under right 1 year after I came here. And I got desperate. And I was like, oh my God, I need to get a job and whatsoever. And I ended up like flying to Texas for Terminal Reality. Have everyone heard of it over here? Terminal Reality. Terminal Reality. They had about 10 years of a company, and that's where I worked on Connect Star Wars. And I'm sure the whole portfolio of I had images of it, and unfortunately I just took it off because I feel that the work that I have now it's better. Um, and after Terminal Reality, I went to Nerve, which I worked on Black Ops 2. And after Nerve, I went to Airtight Games. Airtight Games, they worked on Murder Soul Suspect. Everyone heard of that game? Yeah. I didn't have to ask for Black Ops 2 because you guys probably all know of it, right? Yeah, I know. There's going to be a Black Ops 3 maybe? Oh, we don't know. And and then that's how I ended up here at Radio Dawn after Murder Soul Suspect. And you guys might ask me like, why did you jump so much? Mainly because this industry is the way it is sometimes, and we don't feel like you're adapting in the company and you want to go somewhere else, or sometimes the company just doesn't go so well and you want to jump the job and you feel unsafe. And I heard a lot of fortunate people that actually stay in a big company and they're there for 10 years and they're there for 15 years. I was not so fortunate, but for me it was good. Why? I ended up learning so many different pipelines. I ended up learning how to work with a lot of different people. I ended up creating contacts where I don't think that working in one company for 10 years will get me into. So it's a fact where I am now. It's because of all this experience that I had, which I jumped so much. And the PTS. Oh, there you go. So I want to show you guys a little bit of the work at Radio Dawn Studios, where I am at right now. This is the Order 1886. Is an image where Patrick Stone modeled the all the shell, which we call shell, is like walls and doors, right? And I created all the texture of it. And this is why I'm explaining you guys today the texturing side of things, where you're getting to be a specialist, right? And this is one of the things where I did for Radio Dawn, and we wouldn't be able to do this by ourselves if we were not specialized into or modeling or texturing. Believe me or not, this was a very complex level for the game. It's actually Mayfair. I'm not sure if anyone played the game or no. Yeah, you've seen some people play. Okay, it's cool, but no one played it. You played? Okay, cool. And this is the same level. It's an alley, and you can see all the textures over here actually modeled in ZBrush. We did not use Substance Designer. We did not use procedural materials on it. The main discipline of the procedural materials is something that I started at home, studying and looking at. Just Josh, if you want to go really quick, this is Josh Lynch, is a also Substance Designer fan, and he also like we taught each other a lot of the things that we know now. So we didn't use Substance Designer over here. We did not use procedural materials. It's pretty much hand painted and hand sculpted. This is another level. This is a level model by David Liu, and then I did the textures for it. Another level from Patrick Stone as well, and I did the textures for it. And then we're gonna start of going to the process of, I mean, to the step of showing you guys what are the procedure materials. And my cell phone is talking. Let me just beauty to mute over here 1 second, guys. This is a procedure material entirely, 100%. There's no hand painted. There's nothing, no brushing. There's no Photoshop in it. There's nothing like that. It's all entirely by algorithmic math in it, and it was done in procedural with Substance Designer. It's like a soil dirt with pebbles. This is another one that I got inspired, and I did for. You guys ever watch Brave, the movie from Pixar? So they had a castles where you ended up having that floor you know, the stone and with the little grouts on those floors, and I just like, oh my god, it would be so cool to do a floor like that. So I ended up just doing it procedurally as well. This is a letter material that is on my website. There is actually a video how I produced it. Anyone actually watched that video or no? You watched it, right? There's a video of it, and you guys can know exactly how I did it. I'm not gonna do this one today because there's already a video there, but it explains exactly how to do that. This is a wood material, all procedural as well. This is a bark material, all procedural. Stone. And I'm gonna go and no, this was not procedural. I'm gonna explain to you guys one thing. Who actually remember these textures? Can anyone tell me like where is it those textures are coming from? Which game is it? Am I blocking your view? I'm sorry. No? Can anyone guess? Come on, take a guess. Come on. Bioshock? No. You were close. You're close. There you go. Okay, so Quake textures were really small at the time, right? And it's one of the things where we see nowadays. I'm like, oh my god, that's pixel art right there. But they actually had the possibility of creating textures, small textures. Those are actually 128 pixels by 120 pixels. And if you wanted to scale up those textures nowadays, you can't, right? You just pretty much are limited to whatever it is. And if you scale it down, it's going to be very blurred. People are not going to like those textures. You guys understand that the resampling of nowadays is just you need to have a higher scale texture to and end up putting in memory a smaller texture just so we have a square of a texture, a tileable texture that actually fits in your memory on any console or any game or PC. So just wanted to show you guys how small the textures were at the time, where you only had color. You didn't have normal map, you didn't have gloss, you didn't have opacity, because the video card couldn't render at the time. Even though those textures, you can see there's a missive going on in the texture itself. So it's important to see how easy at the time it was to do those things. And even though with less application and you know, they didn't have good applications like Photoshop nowadays that to create that stuff. But even though it was easier than at the moment. And I want to show you this screenshot as well from a game. Who can guess this game is? There you go, Virtua Fighter. And you can see there's no textures in there. Yes, the sky. Oh, great job. But there's no other textures on the models. It's all model. It's all mesh. Why? Because the computer graphics at the time, they couldn't even handle that. So they ended up creating very flat shaded surfaces. And this is why I want to get to the part where at the time a generalist, a person that know how to model, know how to texture, could do everything, right? Nowadays, it's getting to a point where they have to divide those disciplines, and unfortunately, the industry is going. Fortunately, actually, the industry is going that way, and if you don't adapt, it's really hard. Uh, I'm going to give you an example. Great artist Josh Lynch, right here, guys. Let's congratulate him for this texture. He's gonna kick my butt after this, presentation. Um, I just want to give you guys an example of how good a texture can be being procedural. Okay, this is a material. I don't know how long you took that to do. Probably a lot, right? Yeah, but you started tweaking and tweaking and tweaking, showing me all the time, and I was giving you feedback. And it's a great example of a texture that could be used in an action game. It's a fantastically made, and it was entirely done procedurally, and you can tweak anything in there really quick. So it's really quick iteration from that texture. And I'm going to show you guys what I'm talking about soon. What about that iteration, all that stuff. So, and you can see how complex it is to do that texture. You can see that you have albedo, which we call color. We have normal map. We have, this is gloss, right? Gloss, and this is high map, right? You have all those channels and even more. You're probably not showing even like roughness or other things that could be on this material, but it's extensive work that is required for an artist. In the past, you had only color. Okay, That's easy, right? You just go to Photoshop and pixel art it, or you even get a photo and just stretch and then pixel art on top of it. Nowadays, you got to do this. And to do that, you needed someone that's specialist, right? And it takes time. And this is another example of whatever we were doing at Radiodon and how complex it is to do every single texture. I'm going to give you guys an example. This cobblestone right here in the bottom, uh, I can guess it was about a week of work to do this cobblestone. So it's not just one day. So because what if I had to model this whole thing and texture at the same time? I couldn't. I couldn't. I had to be only doing the textures for this. This is why the disciplines have, in a way, in the industry nowadays, depending on the company, the companies might have to adapt or even change the discipline of the people, or even find their specialists and put them into their spot. This is a interesting example of I'm getting to a different subject right here, but I want to show you guys how important it is to be a specialist. And I'm just gonna do a comparison of how what people think that is a specialist and what people think is a generalist. Specialists are not narrow-minded. They're definitely not narrow-minded. We can give an example. Josh, do you actually do only textures at work? You model as well, right? You do a lot of modeling too, right? But what do you like most? Doing textures. And it's the same for me. I don't necessarily only do texture at work. I don't. I also do some modeling. I'd have to do like the detail modeling. Someone gives me a block out and I have to do those things. This is why we go to the part where you can see Charlie Chaplin being narrow-minded, where I'm not sure if you guys saw that movie, but he kept going with those bolts and he couldn't stop moving that way because his mindset was just stuck on that part. And this is something that you can be in the game industry. You gotta be proactive. You gotta have the different paths. You gotta learn some other things here and there, not necessarily just being one thing. There was a guy I think I remember a friend of mine told me that at Disney, he there was a person that he was only doing the specular highlights of the eyes for I don't know how many years the guy did that, and he got laid off. And then what happens? Why else? What else does he know how to do? Nothing. He doesn't know how to do nothing. He can do highlights everywhere if he wants to. Welcome, welcome, come sit. And this is one of the problems about a lot of game artists. They get narrow-minded and they don't understand anything else that is going on out there, and they lose their jobs and they can't get a new job. Okay, this is different. This guy studied hard. He is a specialist because he kill himself studying so much, and he understands a lot of whatever's around him. But even though he only does that specialty of whatever, I don't know, maybe he's a technician, maybe he's a medic or something like that for space station, we don't know, but he's a specialist. NASA treats them that way. So it's one of the two examples that I wanted to give you guys, where because I wanted to get to this point where it's the specialist versus generalist. So I'm putting him as an example again. And don't get offended if you're a generalist, but I personally feel that the generalists, most of the time, they have to carry a lot of weight on their chest. If they want to be a generalist, it's really, really hard nowadays because there's so much content, so many disciplines that you can't carry all. Okay. I'm gonna point some things over here. So the specialist, he studied really hard, right? He solves specific problems better. He understands what's going on with his skills. He's very focused on things that he wants to do. So he doesn't have. He can learn other things. He can. It's fine to understand other things, but it's better to focus in one thing. Okay, actually, not one thing, one discipline. He has simpler goals. That means that he has better results. All right. He can create fascinating textures. I'm going to give textures as an example. Okay. He can create really, really good textures and materials because he knows how to focus. And because of the simpler goal of creating a texture equals to better results. He finishes the work. That is something very important. A lot of people try to do indie games and they go and like, oh, I'm going to do it by myself. Also, I need to know how to code. I need to know how to animate. I need to know how to texture. I need to know how to model. I need to know how to do UI. I need to know how to sell it. So it's a lot of things that unfortunately he won't never be able to finish the work, right? That one other thing the specialist can do is teach well because he exactly knows what's going on his part of the discipline. And he can be an example in a team, and the industry sees it. Why? Because you start posting on Polycount, you start posting on ArtStation, you start posting on other forums out there. Because you have the time to do it, you get your word out there, right? People are seeing what's going on. Isn't that true, Josh? So, yeah, I'm paying Josh to say that, by the way, guys. Generalists, they study really hard as well. It's the same thing. They did. They solve problems. They don't know how to solve specifics sometimes, but they do solve problems. They know how to go to an employee and just, try to help him out because he knows some things here and there. Needs to look out for everything so he can focus, right? And that's a problem. He has mega goals. He has to finish a game by himself or maybe in 3 people, and he can't have that the specialist mindset on him, and that's why he gets less quality. Takes way longer time to finish the work. Can teach others, but it's very busy, indeed, because he's doing other tasks. Easy to get sidetracked and lost. It's definitely a thing where I see examples in the industry where they want to do everything, and they stop trying to do the textures and stop doing the modeling or the animation or anything like that, and they can't finish anything, so they get lost in what they're doing. There's no focus and not enough time because he's so busy and he's crunching, and his extra time it all goes to do whatever he needs to do at the work and do minimal things that don't necessarily get done, or someone else has to finish for him, so no one can see his work, no one can see his specialty. So what about the industry on the specialist side? Is it something that the industry really wants to adapt? Because we saw so many things that other companies are, creating projects where it's so hard to do so much content, and if you have generalists in the whole company, they won't be able to finish, right? And this is one of the things where starts with acceptance. People need to accept the fact that the having a specialist in the company is a good thing. So the necessity of it, I said before, it's necessary to see uh, budget wise, why do you need those specialists and not have to do everything as general? The workflow and adaptation, you will have to adapt your company and your pipeline and your workflow to see how many people are willing to be specialists in your company. I'm going to give you an example of game companies that actually have that pipeline. I'm talking mainly about art over here, okay, guys, not necessarily programming, but it works for the same way. I believe so. And one of the game companies that I know that they have tons of specialists separating modeling from textures, Naughty Dog is a good example. Rated Dawn, we do that as well. Sucker Punch, they also have texturing team, environment modeling team, props team, every single thing separate. Ubisoft, I heard of that too. Microsoft, for sure, they have tons of employees, and many others. And here's one of the things which maybe I don't know how many people here actually are interested on the films or ads or visual effects, but they did that a long time ago, way before the game industry. Pixar or even other companies. And at Pixar, the guy will only do procedural textures, and they did that a long time ago. The game industry is actually starting to adapt to that side in a way. I'm going to give you examples of artists that I know that work with a procedural workflow, even if it's personal work or at their work. Okay, Richard Pipes, he works at Naughty Dog. Joshua Lynch, which is right here, Infinity Ward. David Lesperance, I saw some examples online that he was doing stuff with procedural workflow. He works at Valve. Kenneth Lemmers, a friend of mine is an ex-director, tech director from Microsoft. He owns the company called Game Tutors. Rogelio Olgin, he works in Naughty Dog. Genesis Prado. Andrei Vankyo. Andrei Vankyo is more, not necessarily texture procedural, but he knows node-based editors and works with procedural modeling as well in Maya and other softwares, and many others that are out there in the Polycount or in the industry itself. So why procedural, right? We hear that word and we don't necessarily understand what it is. Who actually understands what procedural is? Just, could you put your hands up? Okay, there you go. So there's only 4 that understand what procedural is. Procedural, I'm going to read this because it's important to read. In computer graphics, procedural generation is generating content algorithmically rather than manually. Okay, what does that mean? Algorithmically means that there's algorithms in code that are creating steps of processes for you instead of you having to brush it manually. Okay, in video games, this means graphic content for a game can be created by the host computer, which means your computer, instead of pre-rendered artwork being included with the game package. So there's no bitmaps that were there before, and something is being created with the computer and behind it and creating the steps. So you give guides, algorithmic guides to the computer, and it's gonna give that output for you. Did I got that from Wikipedia? Again, why procedural? Anyone ever heard this word non-destructible? Yeah, you guys know what that means? Can anyone say what that means? Oh, that guy, like they put his hands on. Sorry, real quick. Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, it's not like a layer in Photoshop where you brush in that layer and you can undo so many steps because you already destroyed that layer. So if I'm blurry and sharpening that layer, I cannot go back to the first source of image that I had. And it's something that procedurally, it's a non-destructible path, and you can do that. If you want to say something else. Yeah, you already said? Okay, that's cool. Another thing why procedural is resolution independent. You can go to any resolution you want, 2048, 4096, 256. If you want to create your image in 256 and then later on go to 4096, it's okay. It's not going to be blurred. And I'm going to explain why later on. The good thing about it as all is the reuse. So as soon as I created like a pebble maker on Substance Designer, which I'm going to show later on, you can reuse that pebble or that rock or anything that you created before, the twigs or anything that you create in Substance Designer, you can reuse later for other textures or other materials. So it's a very important thing to understand. Automation. Everything can be automated if you want to. You just give some guides and the computer will gonna do the rest for you. Doesn't mean that you're not gonna be an artist. No, it doesn't mean that. You're just gonna keep giving them the information. It's very good for large scale pipeline. What does that mean? Whenever you have a company of 200 people and they're all working with different manners, one works in ZBrush, one works with Photoshop, one paints traditionally, it's really hard to get them all together and one software in one package and save the files because you're going to have 500,000 assets all together. So Substance Designer or even procedurally workflow, it's going to help you out with that. Possibly better asset management is exactly what I said before. It's really easy and quicker to do iterations with procedural materials. And I'm going to show that again to you guys soon. I just wanted to point that out. And it's really good for prototyping. There comes a problem where artists, they look at procedural workflow, and Josh knows what I'm talking about here. It's a very hard learning. Why? Because it's not something common, not something that people actually looked at before. So it is something that people are going to be scared of. Whenever you see all those nodes and things in your face and like, oh my God, I need to know how to script, I need to know how to code. No, you don't need that. It's pretty much just a visual graph of what's going on. And it's important for the artist to understand that. And it has a little bit of a blockage at first and a lack of interest. Because, oh, I came here to be an artist. I'm not. I don't want to be technical, and I want to do paintings, or I want to do some cool compositions with my brush or whatsoever. It's fine. You can. It's all right. But if you want to be a texture artist and you want to work with procedural and you want to use that as a tool to speed up your workflow and be better, you have to break up that blockage. It's very non-intuitive. That means that you're not gonna be able to learn that easy. You have to practice. You have to understand anytime anyone's doing life drawing, right? How many years of life drawing they have to do to make sure that they understand anatomy of a body. It's a lot of time. So, and again, procedural uh, workflow is a tool, and a tool is just a tool. It doesn't mean that you have to work that way. You can just use it to help you out. And if you don't understand, it's fine. You don't have to go that way. And then one of the things where I believe that artists they have that creative mindset and they're missing a little bit of the logical mindset as well. So the tech side of things, a lot of people just don't care and they just want to, brush things in Photoshop and create a picture, and that's not that good. The learning process of it is very important as well. So here's a really quick phrase that I really like. Art is a diverse range of human activities and the products of those activities usually involving imaginative or technical skill. A lot of people forget that. A lot of people forget that. And that is very important. You can't brush a painting if you don't know which brushes you're using, right? So that's technical. And it's fine to go technical side too, if you want to go more to the technical side. Does it have to be procedural? Who thinks? Like, does it have to be procedural? No one thinks so? Yeah, you guys are right. No, it doesn't. It does not. It doesn't have to be procedural. You can just sculpt in ZBrush. You can just keep doing the Photoshop. You can do all those things. But don't forget, you have all these things in your hands that can help you out, which I believe personally that the industry is going to go that path a little bit more. And if some people are not going to that path, it's going to be the same fact of like, oh, I don't want to work with ZBrush. I don't want to play around with it. So I'm going to only work for companies that do hand painted work. Fine. That's great. Just so you guys know, Blizzard is already adapting ZBrush to World of Warcraft. What about that? Right? Took a long time. It took a long time. Maybe 6 years or 5 years or so. But there was a girl that started doing ZBrush sculpts for texturing, which is a texture artist there. She did some sculpts and then hand painted on top of it after. It looked amazing. It looked awesome, even better than the textures that they were doing before. And it looked cartoonish. Isn't that cool? Because people are able to adapt. People are able to understand other methods of doing things and go forward. I'm going to show you guys today Substance Designer, right? Who actually knows Substance Designer? I already asked that, I guess. Yeah, okay, 5 people. And Substance Painter is actually another software from Allegorithmic. They probably are better for characters and props, where you can paint on the model itself. I'm not going to be showing that today. I'm just going to show you guys the procedural applications that I know the industry uses. Houdini is another software that you can actually do particle effects and modeling, procedural modeling in it. And it's fantastic and super powerful. People are really afraid of that software, by the way. I am myself sometimes because it's not easy. It's not hard. It's really hard to work with. Filter Forge. Filter Forge is an old kind of Substance Designer application, which you used to do filters for Photoshop. World Machine is a software where you can create terrains, big terrains. Battlefield uses, a lot of other companies use it, and it's all procedural as well. If you are going to be a terrain artist, which is another specialty, you got to know World Machine. That's a fact. Terragen is another world procedural maker. And View 3D, which you can create procedural rocks and other visual effects. I think that most of the film companies use that instead of Substance Designer. We're gonna do a break really quick so you guys can chill out for a second. And I know you guys are tired of hearing my voice. So I don't know how many minutes you want to do. 5, 10?
About 5 minutes.
Yeah,
5 to 10 minutes,
yeah.
and then we'll come back and jump over.
Yeah, go get a coffee, go get a water or restroom or anything. And I'll come back to show you guys how it's done with Substance Designer. Good?
Yeah, great. Let's,
We'll be right back in 5 minutes.
can I pause the stream? Do you know that? If that, I don't want to stop broadcasting. No, just leave it go. Yeah, it's not broken at all.
Sorry to use your name all the way.
No, that's all right.
The problem is whenever I get to the software, it's gone.
And thanks for coming out and doing the presentation. I appreciate it. Actually, it's funny. My buddy Bradford Smith, he taught all the Naughty Dog classes.
Oh,
He's at Naughty Dog, yeah.
oh,
Yeah, he's watching the stream right now. He was supposed to come down. I wanted to be down, but he was getting, I got sick.
they're working hard there.
Oh, yeah. Exactly. He, I guess right now they're trying to ramp up for E3, and he's like, yeah, there's one level, and they have 30 bucks on it right now. I'm like, Jesus, bro. Because usually it's only like 2 or 3. So like some levels. Yeah, I know. Yeah, actually, when I took the test for Naughty Dog protection position, he told me to look at Jensen's work. He's like, dude, look. Yeah, he's like, dude, look at his work as an example, and he's like, check it out. And so, yeah, he's awesome. Oh, I know. This stuff is killer. Plus, I learned Substance just for that test. So it's like, I'm trying to get in. So it started off doing like commercials. So I worked for a small commercial company. Then I worked at Prolog for about 3 or 4 months. So I worked on some of the Destiny cinematic. Yeah. So I worked for some of the Destiny cinematics, and everyone brings back actually in Japan. But yeah, I know Substance. Yeah, I know Substance. At the end of it, I'll show you. I'll show you the test. Crazy. I was hired for these top people. Yeah, but then took my career and optimizing. They passed me up and built on stuff. I think one of the steps to come in. It's like they were like, it's not giving me the stats part of the app, right? It's like, dude, let's when did you last year? I was like, I think I turned it in as hard for it. Yeah, I'm going to. I'm just waiting for them. Right. Matthew, yeah. I met you at the Dominic question.
Glad that you come out here, man.
It's far, but I make it out for special presentations.
So yeah, if it's your fancy. If it doesn't, hopefully stream thing will be something that you can move forward.
Yeah, I like that you manage your event.
Well, that's something like everybody should have.
Because it's like, yeah, you can like watch it.
A FaceTime on YouTube, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, something one of my teachers told me. Yeah, it's most important about your event is to meet the people. You can email them and get their advice. Well, you don't become a person to them. So you'll be like,
Human interaction with the generation, like, you can actually face-to-face conversations prior to like, moving online. So, yeah, no, do that. Have a lot of coffee. Usually,
yeah, I would. All you need is environmental stuff. sci-fi wall. And then it's really simple because it's like, oh, it's just metal, close, and then like I just throw the yeah, a lot of people I've seen like they'll try and learn a program, but it's really complicated. And yeah, they more problems. Yeah, but it has basic sometimes out as good. Sometimes better. I guess like yeah, like ask Chad. Because he did an internship there, and now he's working part time. We just hired a PR chick, so I don't know. I mean, the internship rate, I don't know. Travis, yeah. I would talk to Travis, Chaz or Travis. Travis has been a lot. But I mean, I don't see why it would. The only thing because right now is we probably have to work on like a legal platform. Because when I got there, they had just gotten it. Yeah, I do. So they had anticipated somebody else coming on. You know what I mean? Yeah. How's your class today? A lot of fun. Yeah. It's all before all the time. Yeah, it's so much fun. I recently figured out how to make a procedural texturing landscape shader. So it textures the landscape as it's sculpted. It's really cool. Yeah, I spent like I was there just for 8 hours of my day, and that was the whole thing I did all day. Just figuring out the shader. It's really cool. Yeah. It's well, it's based on angles. So like flat surfaces come out one direction, and like additional surfaces come out this one, and then you can plug in a third texture to blend it. So it like if you have like just a red surface and flat, the walls will blend. You can see the colors. There's so much stuff.
Mhm.
Yeah, dude, and I'll send over to them.
Well, something about communication. But what I have noticed without communication, it's very difficult. So like, what I did is like I chose what I wanted to do. I wanted to have the same problem as you, and we were just together.
Right to the side. I think we're gonna go for a beer.
But I mean, the more,
Friends of mine.
awesome. The more I've learned,
You have time? Is your wife here?
4 weeks ago, the more it's kind of
Oh. Oh, you're still in the hotel.
yeah. So
It's nice.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It is.
Don't have to clean it.
No, and but it's in the Lake Village, so it's a nice part of town. So like everything around it's really nice. And,
Are you gonna live in Woodland?
yeah, I'm gonna live right now in the studio.
I used to live right there. You know that, right?
I'm gonna be on DeSoto.
That's what I'm.
Really?
Yeah, that's where I was.
We're living in Bella Vista.
Which one?
Bella Vista.
Oh, it's right. Another one. Okay, I forgot the one that I was living on. I forgot the name. It's like 6 years ago. I don't remember.
Yeah, it's north of the studio.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah, I live north of the studio as well.
It's good.
It's a good area.
I didn't know what to expect when they flew me out. I've never seen that part of the town before. But I was like, oh, it's nice.
Start this. What? Some friends of mine at Reddit. Guys, we're gonna come back really soon. Just putting my microphone here. someone having a problem listening to me, please let us know on Facebook or Twitter, and I'll fix this.
All right, let's go.
Is it already on, or
You're ready to go, dude. You're on.
yeah? All right. All right, guys. I'm gonna sit because I won't be able to work on feet, of course. I hope you guys. I hope you guys can all see. Is my head blocking you right there? No. Yeah. All right. So I'm gonna work with Substance Designer now. So I'm gonna open this guy, and you guys can find the interface quite a walk like heavy. I just want to give a little introduction about those panels and to get you guys understanding uh, what does what here. And I know it's a lot of information for now, but please don't be scared. Mainly focus I want you guys to understand is this area. It's the graph area where you're going to build your graphical nodes, and you're going to be bringing those guys over here, and you're going to be mixing and matching things to create, uh, you know, different procedural methods. So I'm just give you an example. This node over here. I'm just going to look at my screen because it's easier. I'm blending these guys together, and you can see how much of I'm blending those two. I'm gonna go really basic for now, and I'm just gonna go advancing later on. And this is the blender node. So you're blending between two textures. It's kind of like a layer in Photoshop where you can have multiply, you have subtract, you have add sub, which is all different blending modes that Photoshop has. Overlay, and all those things you're doing right here. It's giving you a different result on the right side, okay? And you can see that I can just say, oh, I want this layer to be on top and this layer to be on bottom. So I'm multiplying or subtracting right there, and I can give a percentage. I just want to explain you guys the blend node also gives you the chance of masking some stuff out. So for example, if I have a weave, right, which is this one, this graph right here, I can mask things on the third spot. So instead of having things multiplied everywhere, I'm going to have things multiplied only on the spots that are here. Okay. So I'm going to delete this guy out. And today, which I'm going to bring here, we're going to do this cobblestone material. Okay. Mainly we want to create the high map first. This is how I start. And the high map of the pebble, of the rock itself, the stone pieces, and the terrain. And we're going to mix them together after the fact. So I'm going to start with the terrain first, okay? I'm going to do some noises and generating the terrain so you guys can see how we mess around with this. All right, yeah. I'm going to leave this for now on the other side. This takes a little while to load because there's a lot of textures. I'm going to use the moisture noise, which is this guy. Okay. I'm going to plug it already through a normal map really quick just so you guys can see what it does with a normal map. So I'm bringing a node of normal map. I'm going to put, let's say, 24 of intensity, okay? I'm going to make this OpenGL because I want the OpenGL to actually be acting instead of DirectX. That means the green channel is on top. If you guys don't know what I'm talking about here, please just put your hands up and I'll try to respond. So I just want to make this open as possible. And then I'm going to try to put, let me think. Substance Designer is a very experimental tool, so I won't do something necessarily that I always do. I always do something different. So please just let me know if you have any questions. Who knows what a normal map is? Just in case everyone knows what a normal map is, right? Okay, good. Just yeah. So I connected this node, which is a noise maker. It's called moisture noise, and then I connected the node, which is a normal map. So I'm going to zoom in over here so you can see, understand what's going on. And I'm connecting that guy. So this is a high map, and I'm bringing on that to normal map. But now I feel like no, this is too high, too noisy. Don't I don't like this that much. So, and we have a kid over here. That's great. A lot of people want to learn. Um, and but I'm gonna connect another one, which will give that little sense of really scatter noise on top of things. And if we look at it over it, it's like, oh my god, this is dirty. So I'm gonna bring that down, looking at the normal map itself. So I'm clicking right here in the normal map, and then whenever I click on that guy, I bring the opacity down, and you will see how much of that dirt is just going subtle, going a little bit less. And then at the same time that I'm doing this, I'm able to change a little bit the shape of the dirt or the mud or whatever we're doing here. So this is the high map. And what I want to do is now see this normal map on the 3D view, right? Let's bring in an output really quick. Let's call this normal just for the case of reading purposes. And I'm going to go to view in 3D and plug it to normal. The material needs to be OpenGL as well, which I'm going to click here and just bring that to be OpenGL. And you guys can see that this is already bringing a normal map as a dirt, muddy kind of ground right there. And we're going to be tweaking that terrain for quite a while, so bear with me as I keep going. I'm going to try to find another fractal or another, I'm actually going to use the same moisture noise, and I'm going to random seed. What is the random seed? It pretty much gives you variations of whatever that map is doing. So because this node itself, it was created by Allegorithmic, if I open the reference here, please don't cry whenever I open this. Oh no, that's actually not that big. But inside of this node, what you guys were seeing, it's another graph that it explains exactly what Substance Designer or the guys at Allegorithmic created. So you can reuse this in every single project. So all of those nodes over here are a library that you can use, and don't be afraid of using those. Don't create your own from scratch because it's unnecessary. It's like you're just trying to recreate the wheel, right? So I just wanted to show you guys that because it's important. And because it's a graph, there's algorithm on inside of that node. I can vary as much as I want through those things and create disorder or create different effects on this texture where I want, let's say, for example, give a little bit of direction to the road or whatever we're doing. And I'm going to combine this guy together with the one that is on top. So you guys can see that we have these three nodes. And I have that guy. I'm going to plug another one, which is a blend, another blend, and put over here. Since I think that the normal map is too harsh, I'm going to bring it down a little bit, the blend, and you'll see that now starts to get a little bit better on the noise. 1 second. Let me put this to 12. I think that's better. You guys can see that we already have some kind of a base of a dirt, of a muddy kind of floor. Now I want to start doing some little pebbles, some little, incorrections of the terrain. So I'm going to put this guy away. I'm going to put the output of the normal map right there. And I'm going to name this frame over here. As you guys can see, I'm working only on high maps and normal maps. I'm not doing color right now. Color goes at the end, okay? I'm gonna name this dirt height, actually. And dirt height is gonna go this way. I'm gonna, yeah, this is gonna be saved around here. It's fine. I'm gonna create the pebbles. How do I create the pebbles? I don't necessarily gonna create on this file. I'm actually gonna save this file. I'm gonna go to Explorer. I'm gonna save this guy if he lets me. Oh my god. There you go. And I'm gonna put that desktop's fine, right? I put dirt actually going to do a cobblestone. So I'm going to put cobblestone material. I'm going to save this SPS file, which is the format for Substance Designer. And I'm going to call this one as just the cobblestone itself, right? And then I'm going to create a new graph. I'm going to put just empty is fine. I'm going to call this as pebbles. All right. As we have this graph, and if I bring it down here, you guys will not be able to see what's going on out there because this is the dirt itself. So I have this graph now, which is the cobblestone itself with the dirt height and the pebbles right there. And instead of actually calling pebbles, I'm sorry, I'm going to call it pebbles maker. So to combine the terrain with pebbles, we need two different things, and I'm going to mix those things together later on, but I wanted to separate so it's easier to show you guys how I do it at least. So I'm going to go for patterns. I'm going to find a circular or the polygon, which is a polygon is pretty good. And you can see it's a format, and this is done in code again. And I'm going to be able to change the amount of slides that I want for this. Okay. I'm going to make this that way. I think it's better. That's cool. I'm going to duplicate this guy. And I'm going to change the amount of sides to maybe 5. It's fine. And let me think about it. Can you guys hear me? Yeah. I'm going to use your safe transform. Safe transform is pretty much I'm going to be transforming or like doing translations or rotations on it without losing the tiling. That's one of the great things about Substance Designer. Everything you do, it's possible to just leave the tiling happening. So as an example, whenever I do this and I offset something, it's already there, tiled, okay? And I'm gonna do this way right there. As you guys can see, I'm just pretty much styling. And the rotation, I just want to leave the rotation unsafe so I can rotate those guys together. Why am I doing this? You guys will see soon. Because whenever I bring this guy on, and this rotation of this on as well, I'm going to put a normal map here so you guys can understand what's going on. And the music is off. All right, so because I put a normal map here, I'm going to exaggerate this guy and you guys will understand what I'm talking about here. It's hard to explain without doing it. And this one, remember the blend modes that we were talking about in Photoshop, right? If I subtract this guy, you'll see that you get this shape right here. But how am I getting this shape, which is a rock or a pebble? Because I'm having this shape and I'm subtracting whatever had this on top in a blend, and I'm getting this shape and form through this guy. And because I can put that as a normal map, you start seeing some kind of form of a rock, okay? And this is how we're going to do our pebbles. We're going to combine those things more and more until we get a better form. And so on, we get this one. And I don't know if a lot of the Substance Designer artists actually do it that way. I do it this way. I don't know. Let me know, Josh. How do you do it? No? Go ahead, man. Okay. Yeah. I'm going to subtract that guy, and you can see another form. But what if I want this node that I'm creating here be randomized by the rotation of those guys? So if I have this normal map over here, put it on, right? As you guys can see, I can pretty much rotate this guy, and you guys can see I have different forms going on the normal map side. and I have different rocks being created automatically. I don't have to do anything. Pretty much just rotate this. All right. And the height is being created automatically, and you have it there. Also, one of the great things is if I create a levels node after the blend, I'm able to differentiate the shape or even the the slopeness of that rock, as you can see. Okay. So as we have this, I'm gonna already save this guy and I'm gonna use that on the other file. But before we do that, I want to customize a random position of this rotation. All right. And how do I do that? This is complicated. You guys might have to do it at home as well, or even study a little bit more of the interface of the substance. I don't want to put a lot of time into this, but as you guys can see, while you guys are seeing, you guys might be able to do the same thing at home. So on the rotation spot of this node right here on top, let me organize this a little bit better so you guys can understand. So first pebble, second pebble. On the rotation of the second pebble, okay, I'm gonna go rotation right here, and I'm gonna expose this. All right, and the rotation I'm gonna call a new thing, which I'm gonna say shape 01. And the second rotation, I'm gonna put another name for it, which is gonna be shape 02. Okay. And then we have the rock. And now that I have those exposures, what I need to do is let me absolute this guy, which is going to go, does it go to 50, 56? I don't remember. Yeah. Whenever I absolute. Okay. It's not going though. Yeah, I'm going to put 256 by 256 because I think it's easier to read. And you can see that the input parameters of whatever I had, the rotations that I exposed, those functions are right here. Okay. Whenever I go to my other cobblestone material, I can grab and drop this guy right there, but I forgot to put an output there. So I'm going to go back to the pebbles. I have to always put an output node here. So this normal map is going to get here, and I'm going to create another output node for the top one, which is the high map. Okay. And we're going to call that guy height and call this guy normal. I might not necessarily use the normal, but I just want to show you guys how you can actually expose that to another any kind of graph that you have. So now that I bring that node automatically from the first graph that we were doing, this is already updated and it's bringing right there for you, right? But okay, we have our dirt height. I want to start like spreading those pebbles everywhere on that dirt. How am I going to do that? We'll see. That's a very international song right there, right? So I'm going to put a splatter. The splatter, what it does, it's just pretty much sends that form that you had before, and it puts it in a lot of places, and you can scale it down, rotate it, and whatsoever. So I'm just going to bring the high map of that guy, and you guys can see it's going to 56. Let me bring that guy to a bit. How do I forgot all that. There you go. I'm going to put 512 because it's easier for you guys to read. And you can see that it's tiling everywhere. And I'm going to put exactly that grid on top of the terrain. It's done. No, I'm just kidding. It's not done. Definitely not done. And then with this guy, I can pretty much create different rotations, variations, and whatsoever. So as you can see, the more I move those things, I'm creating different rotations. And I'm going to just do random stuff here so you guys can understand. Actually, this is the one I want. Give me 1 second. I want to not create that variation and kind of try to break down the variation on the. I don't want to have a lot of size variation because pebbles are not so big and small, but at the same time I want to have a lot of disorder. I have to exaggerate on that number. Just put the 500, and then you have a lot of disorder going on and give that naturality to it, right? I'm gonna put a little bit smaller, so I'm gonna try this 15. Sorry, too big. 15, 15. That's still too big, so I'm gonna put 8 by 8. Great. I'm gonna test this out first, right? So I'm gonna bring another blend mode, put that out here, and test with the terrain. And I don't know if you guys ever play with that stuff in Photoshop, but the blend node, you gotta understand exactly what max or minimum or subtract is. In Photoshop, they don't necessarily explain exactly what it does, but there's tests that you can do, and I'm gonna show you guys really soon. So I'm putting max right now, and you guys can see that the pebbles are actually getting out of the terrain, and they're being put on. Oh, the normal app's not. Oh, sorry, I have to connect this guy, of course. And there you go. You see that the pebbles are actually getting out and bringing on the dirt. Okay. And but the pebbles are too big because we're gonna bring a cobblestone on top of it. So because it's already there, I don't have to go back and I can go back and iterate without breaking my mesh or my high map the way I want. So I want the pebbles to be smaller. I can just tweak them over here and just say 2 by 2. I don't want too much size variation. And you can see the pebbles are starting to get smaller and smaller. But then, wait a second. Didn't we create another pebble, a pebble maker where I can go here and say, hey, I don't want necessarily the same pebble, but I want to create something different. The same pebble is going everywhere. This pebble we created remember that those instances we created that rotation? Now I can go and create different forms with those rotations in a whole different new pebble right there. All right. And the splatter, the same one that we had, is right here. But I have a random seed, so I can position them differently in the map, or even scale them in and up and down. So you can repeat this as many times as you want. We're gonna just do 2 for now. It's unnecessary. Your eyes might not even see. Um, I think 2 is a good amount for just the amount of pebbles there on the terrain. And again, I'm gonna put max on this guy. And you can see now that if I deleted this guy, just as an example, okay, you can see that now we have more pebbles right there. And I can randomize them where I want the pebbles to be, and that they're getting done on the normal app right there. Well, let's look at what it goes from the 3D view. Let me put this as normal map. Let me bring another output, which is going to be color. I'm going to put just a gray color on it for now. And I'm going to output that color to be right here. So we start to see as a terrain, you're getting that the pebbles with the dirt. But I feel that the dirt is not so nice. It feels like extremely noisy and extremely height. You guys don't feel the same way? Like it's kind of very bumpy. So I want to change that. How do I do that? I will just go back to my graph right here. And before I put the pebbles on, right, these are the pebbles, I want to create something different for the terrain. So I'm going to grab a node called histogram range. Histogram range is pretty much a contrast brightness in Photoshop. A little bit different than that, but if you play around with those things, you'll see, oh, okay, more contrast, and then brightness and not so bright, not so much brightness. So what I'm changing here is the amount of contrast on that high map, which because if I do that, you'll see that, oh, okay, now the terrain is starting to get nicer, or the dirt with the pebbles, right? And again, we're only on the high map for now. We're only creating normal map. So after I do everything, then we go to the colors. I'm just gonna add one more layer of pebbles, and I feel that's better. I'm just gonna copy those two nodes, rotate that guy really quick, create a random variation of that. I'm gonna put a levels over here because I can change its height. I mean, its slopeness. You can see I can do more pointy or not. I'm gonna do randomize the splatter. I'm gonna put more of those guys in. So I'm gonna go grid number like that. I think it's good. Let me know if you guys are not getting anything or not understanding what's going on. You can see now I have more pebbles going on the mesh. And what if I wanted the pebbles to be bigger? And let's say I don't want to create a cobblestone terrain or anything like that. I just want a pebble with terrain. Then you simply go here. Let's show the normal map really quick. Simply go here and change the size of the pebbles and start creating some kind of stuff like that. Of course, you want to randomize as much as you can. So you're going to have to put more detail into your pebbles on that other node, so you have the rocks to be working better over here, right? Gonna do that. Right, let's change the resolution of that really quick because the resolution is 512 right now. Again, the same idea we were talking before. We can change this resolution at any time. As you can see, we were 512 by 512. Now we're 1024 by 1024, right there. I'm gonna put 2048, 2048, just so you guys can see even better. Oh, there's an absolute, 1 second. There you go. This is absolute as well. And now this normal map is 2048 by 2048. See how much detail there is in that guy? So this is normal map. Let's see that on the 3D view. Kind of already have some kind of dirt with terrain with the pebbles. Now we go to the part where we want to create the cobblestones. Yeah, totally. You can do as much as your computer explodes. Because, oh, you mean like in one blend node? No, but one blend node, no, you can't. Yeah, only two. I think that there was a request for them to actually change that, but the problem is that how are you gonna know if you're doing add or max or yeah, yeah, and keep going. This is why I have three blend nodes right here, like one node right there, one node right there, one node right there. So that's one of the bases of the thing. And then thank you for the question, by the way. We're gonna now like bring the cobblestones, which I had before, right here, and I'm gonna work on the cobblestones before we do anything. So as we had on that the presentation, and I want to look at it really quick, you can see that we have the terrain, we have the little pebbles on the bottom, but the cobblestones are extremely random, and they are not so, their height are completely different from each other. Their lines break from each other. It's really like thin and thick. So it's quite complicated to do that, and especially because whenever you're tiling a texture, you don't want it to look like it's a tileable texture. This is where Substance will kind of help you, but you have to make it believable as well. And this is one of the hardest parts of for the texture artist is to make a texture believable, but at the same time fit in memory, right? And it's my job to do that all every day. So let's go back. I'm gonna leave this reference right here. Unfortunately, I don't have too much for you guys to see, but this is you guys can pretty much see how many lines you have here and like how much breaks are in between the stones, how grungy and worn some of the rocks are, so how smooth they are on the top. I want you guys to understand that as a texture artist, you have to look at the references all the time. Look at them and see how they look, how much glossiness, how much detail there is in it. You see that the edges of some are very worn, some of them are super smooth. So we're gonna try to work as much as we can on those steps. All right. Let's go back to Substance, and we can see this is nothing like the reference as the high map. This is one we're gonna try to work as much as we can on this guy. So let me play around with this a little bit. Need to experiment with a lot of things. So I'm gonna do another one real quick. Let me think about this for a second. You can see like I'm trying to just get the some of the textures to have that kind of broken parts or not. So I'm just using a checker to do that. Although I don't think the checker will work, so I'm gonna try to do other tricks over here to do that. Maybe the checker might work. Let me just dial it a little bit more. No, it won't work because it has to be in the same spot. Let me try another one. It goes to a part where experimentation is necessary. I unfortunately don't have like all the solutions right now. So before we do that, I'm just gonna go to another spot where I can keep thinking in my mind how to actually solve that later. I'm gonna go to a slope blur. What the slope blur is, it gets the slope of whatever the pixels that are going out on the corner, and it's gonna try to distort that. I'm gonna use this blur with maybe, let me get a noise here real quick. I have to type. So you see that now I have some kind of distortion on the borders and it's kind of trying to cut those things out, right? But it's all the same. It looks bad. So I'm gonna try blurring this one a little bit. Because if you blur this mask and send it off to the same effect, you'll see that this will change quite a lot. See that now I have a little bit of waviness to it. But then I want them to be varying in between this, that, and without the blur. And how do we do that? Okay, let's go there. So I'm gonna create another one. I'm gonna bring that guy here. So you have the noisy one, we have the wavy one, and we have this one. I'm gonna create another blend node, which is already there for me, which is awesome. I'm gonna blend this guy. I'm gonna create a noise, and let me get it's loading the thumbnails. Can you guys hear me? Yeah. It's fun. It's not loading the thumbnails. Okay, I'm gonna use it that way anyway. I'm gonna levels this cloud mask. Bring it there. Just make it sharpen or maybe a little bit more contrasted. So you will see that the white areas are gonna have the noise, and the other areas, I mean, the wavy parts, and some other areas are gonna be smooth. So it's one of the things that I wanted you guys to understand that. And now I'm gonna bring the noisy one all together as well. I'm gonna blend that guy, blend the noise one on top. I'm gonna use the same clouds, hit that guy, and just vary a little bit. Control D. Yeah, you can probably press here too. Duplicate selection. I'm gonna use the same levels because we want to have the kind of same contrast. And you guys can see this is different than that. It's just using the same node, and I'm gonna use that as a mask, kind of like in Photoshop. And now you can see the details of the noise are getting there, but it's too much. So if I don't want too much, I'll just go to the levels in kind of like in Photoshop, and tweak that so I can have those going out. And this is only the high map again, but I feel that whatever I'm doing here, it's not it's super unique and not necessarily we're just working on the edges, right? But if I want to go back and I want to tweak this out to be a little bit more, how can I say, uh change the slopeness of it, or even like the angles of the rocks, then we can do that. Let me go here. Actually, no, this one I can't use. So, pardon me, I am using the brick generator. I have to use something else, which is the tile generator. This is another guy. And again, we're not losing. This is one of the things I talked about to you guys is it's non-destructive. So anything that I plug here, every single thing else is just already going to work. So I'm just going to change this node that is from start and to create another pattern of rocks over here, and it's fine. It's okay. So I'm gonna go to and do the like. In 1 second. Just gonna offset a little bit. Create more on the Y. Create less on the X. Okay. And vary a little bit on the sizes. Have a little bit of scale variation, so it gives you a little bit more naturality to things. Disco time. And then I can have like some kind of free rotation and randomize that rotation. Yeah, cobblestones are not that way, right? So I'm gonna vary a tiny little bit, not much. And you can vary a little bit of their fixed rotation. Fixed rotation, you're not gonna see that much over here. So you're not gonna even put that much. And you can also randomize the amount of mass. So let's say you want to do cobblestones that, oh, it's already only on dirt, or it's, you know, there's a little hole right there. That's pretty good to use that way as well. I'm gonna vary a little bit on the brightness of it. So now if I have this, I can just go there and send it off to myself lost here. 1 second. Actually, this one. I'm gonna put that for now. Let me organize this graph because you guys are gonna probably get lost soon. Me too. I'm already. This is one of the great things about Substance Designer. You can always like just frame something and just comment or just tell what you are at. I'm gonna put that as cobblestones. Stones. Actually, just stone is fine. Stonies. No. Yep. You can see that every single of that work that we were doing before, the noise and all those things are already there, and that's the great thing about it. I'm gonna do a little trick that I used to do with the things that I wanted to be a little bit more rounded on top. So bear with me for a second. I want to blur this guy out first. Okay, so we have the blur right there. The intensity, I want a little bit like that. What I want to use this guy as a second, this guy as first, and I want to mask it out another one without the illumination variation. So I'm just gonna go here. Oh, actually, never mind. Sorry, I'm gonna use a different way. Do the levels here. I'm creating the mask over here. 1 second. A little guy. Nice, and he closed on me. There you go. So I just want to make the shape of like the mask of really the cobblestones themselves, and just mask it out where I want it to show only the other masks, but you can see now that you have a little bit of more rounded parts on top. So because whenever you go to the reference of the pebbles, I mean the stones themselves, they're a little bit more rounded, and we're gonna do waves and things like that on top, just so you can understand how cobblestones actually work. But this is just the first step, and we can go back over here on the blur side and just tweak it how much blur we want, and you can see how much we can get the variation on top of those. I'm just gonna put quality as 1. And you can see you're starting to get, oh, I'm sorry, this is one I need to connect here and here. I'm using this blend as a focus point. This blend is not necessarily doing anything, but because I'm gonna be working with that later on. So now you have that little edging surrounding this. And we're gonna start putting this on top of the terrain, right? Just so we can see how it actually looks. I'm gonna go back down here. I'm gonna create another blend. There's a lot of blends in this tutorial. And the dirt that we had before, I'm gonna mask it. So I'm gonna put that terrain on the bottom. And I'm gonna bring the cobblestones on top. And I'm gonna use a max right here. And you can see that the cobblestones are starting to fill up the terrain. So whenever we put the normal map right there, you guys can see that the cobblestones are starting to give that kind of like format on top of the terrain. It looks bad right now, but you'll see that the more I tweak on the cobblestones, you guys will be seeing more and more of the effect. What's going on? I should go to the blur again. I don't want to. Let me. Since we already have the normal map, it's kind of cool to just look at there and just try to find your way over here. I'm just looking for other alternatives of how what can I do on the cobblestone. It takes time. It's one of the things. Like it's not a thing where I know the solutions right now. I just have to find it. Uh, yeah, this I think this blur is actually not working so well because one of the things that we're doing right now is like getting the blur to contact the other option, and it's getting that sharpness edge surrounding the lines of the cobblestone. This is why it's not working so well. So I'm gonna have to rely on another solution. So I'm just gonna leave this blur for now. I can press just backspace. You guys will see that it gets to the hard edges again. I'm gonna add another blur just to try it out things with other things right here. Just backspace on that guy as well. And this is it's a fact of like every day whenever you're working, some solutions are just not gonna work. Let me think for a second. Oh, what? Oh yeah. About 6 months. Yeah. So that's one of the things is like ZBrush I know for 6 years and Substance only for 6 months. So it's one of the things where you sometimes don't know all the solutions or all the things that you need to do. Oh, I know a good solution over here. Maybe we do this. All right, so I'm gonna subtract this guy on top of it a little bit, just to get it a little bit of that sense of sculpting on top of it. And actually, sorry, no, not subtract, max. There you go. And a little bit less of the blur. Just gonna get good connect to those guys because they were there. Yeah, maybe that would be. No, still not. So let's go back. Another solution. Let's try the bevel. The bevel node for whoever knows is just it creates a bevel on the side of the pebbles. Yeah, I guess the bevel will be the right solution. So we're gonna work on that for a second. We do a little bit less scale on the points, so we can have the bevel creating actually the size of the things. And I'm gonna smooth that bevel a little bit. This is very subtle. There you go. You can see now that we have the rounding parts and they're going through the pipeline. And then we get to the normal map right there. Guess I'm not connecting something here. Give me 1 second. Yeah, of course. There you go. So we'd start getting that little bevel on the sides, right, of the cobblestone. But we're not seeing as much variation, so we're gonna tweak this low blur over here, looking at the normal map itself. So as you guys can see, the graph is getting kind of getting bigger. And the more intensity I put, you guys are gonna see that the cracks are gonna be bigger and bigger there. Just want to get a little subtle variation. I'm gonna blur a little bit more. And we start getting to that spot. We can give like 5 minutes for everyone to, if you want to. Yeah. Yeah. You guys want to keep going or 5 minutes for just, yeah. You have questions? Oh, yeah. You say keep going? Yeah. You guys are okay? Not, all right. Fair enough. That's one of the things. It's like it's not a you know it and you're gonna make it happen. It's just you gotta play and play until you find the right solution. Yeah. So another solution that I have for like even like creating some different uh, buckling, which is what we call, and I'm just gonna do a lot of scale on this guy, so they're gonna cross each other, okay, which is fine. And I'm gonna try to that do way more of the variation right here. Okay, see if that's good enough. That's fine. And I'm gonna just do a little blur on this guy. All right. And I'm gonna blend that out. I'm gonna use a minimum, or you can actually use a multiply. And you can see that what I'm doing here is just pretty much to change the height of this guy to this one. So whenever you go to your normal map, right there, which I don't think I plugged in again. Yeah, I didn't. See? Unbelievable. You can see the difference right there on the normal map where some of the the cobblestones are just not showing, right? And again, the size might not be right, all the aspects of the cobblestone over here might not be right, but since it's a very easy iterable process, you keep tweaking, you keep doing the things that you want to do. Now, since we're in the normal map, now I can just know exactly how much I can scale this up. Right, this is good enough. And another thing is because we work on height, we want the terrain to go a little bit darker so you can see more of the cobblestones appearing. So I'm just gonna make the position of the terrain to go lower, and you guys gonna see the cobblestones just appearing. There you get that kind of aspect of it. You don't want to go too much, or you're gonna lose the quality on the terrain. So you have to do an average, right? Do a little bit here, and then you don't do as much on the contrast over here on the multiplying part. So you get like one or two just like almost going to the floor, as you can see here, right? Maybe we'll have to actually go make the terrain go a little bit more up. And then I say let's vary um, this bevel. I don't like whenever it's just all the same kind of beveling. So we're gonna copy this bevel. We'll actually duplicate it. Let's do this, and let's make this guy a different amount of it. Let's put like 0.1 and less smoothing. Actually, more 1.2, 0.02. Yeah, there you go. Let's put a little bit less smoothing on it. Let's go. Hit this guy. Put that in here. So we have two different ones, which is a little bit smoother and the other one no. And we're gonna plug that into that layer right there. I mean the blending layer. And we're gonna do a mask for it. Let me think of what the mask could be. let's say clouds 3, maybe. I'm gonna use histogram scan. Histogram scan is not the same as the other one. It just gives you a sense of you see how much of contrast you want, but it works in a different way. I'm gonna do that. I guess it's fine. I need to blur this a little bit because we don't want the mask to be extremely intense or like noisy. And you can see we had this one before, this one now, and now we have this one. And if I plug this, go back to the normal map, it just differentiates a little bit of the bevel on the things. It's hardly noticeable, but if we play with this node right here, the histogram scan, and contrast some spots, you will see a little bit of difference. I'm not sure if it see like this line is started to get a little bit more dark, like straight, and not all the lines are actually extremely distant. So if I take that off, right, you'll see how much the normal map starts to get that little line edging. So it's important to give a little bit of believability because in our reference, you can see you don't have that much of the buckling. I mean the side edges. It's pretty much straight, but because it's a normal map, we're trying to get a little bit of more room. And this actually might be too much, so we're gonna have to play with that again. This might be good. Let's do a little bit more. The style generator. That's instead of the brick image, I'm gonna put square. Then I'm gonna put the size a little bit smaller. There you go. Let's go back to the normal map and check it out. Yeah, it's still too big, so. Better. Take a little bit of the smoothing. It's pretty much noodling and noodling until you find the right, correct thing for yourself. There you go. Now we have a little bit of that cobblestone look on the normal map. And now what I want to do is because of the edges of these guy, and you can see every single part of the cobblestones are too unnatural, and they don't have any breaks. They're not breakable, or like it's like no one ever stepped on those cobblestones, even though they're randomized like that. So we need to work with that kind of part, right? And how I'm gonna do that, I'll show you guys soon. And you can see that also the pebbles are actually going on top of the cobblestone. That's bad. And we're gonna tweak that out as well. So let me create pebbles are going this way. So I'm gonna take that off. I'm gonna combine these guys together, but without the terrain. I'm gonna create another blend. I'm gonna disconnect that guy. Put the pebbles right after. And put a maximize right there. Please, if you guys are not getting anything, just let me know. Actually, this one now. I'm gonna put a range. What I'm doing is pretty much not let the pebbles to get on top of things. There you go. That's better. Pebbles are at the bottom, and you can't see any of it on top of the cobblestone. And the cobblestones are very not varying too much. So let's go back to whatever we needed before. Choose normal map again. Sorry. the computer is getting very heavy, so that's why it's kind of slow. I'm gonna create a blur so we can get those shapes to be a mask. No, I'm just kidding. Just so I can sharpen up and have a little bit of different edging on the corners. And I'm gonna blend that out to have the variation of the edges to be rounded or not. Okay, so give me a bit. So you can see now that while I'm blurring that out, I have those a little bit of the edging on the sides. And I'm also gonna get a warp. The warp node, it pretty much says what the word is. It's gonna warp a little bit of whatever you have, and I'm gonna put a mask on that warp to create that warp. Let me blur this out as well. There's two types of blur in Substance Designer. One that is very cheap for the computer, and one that is not so cheap. And as you can see now that I have this shape and I have this shape, you start getting, differentiation in between the cobblestones. And I want to blend this guy that I had before with this one. And I'm going to use that mask, which I already had before, to just give it a little bit of a difference, but I'm going to level that mask out. So you have some of it appearing and some of it don't. I can do that in different ways. It's just I'm showing you this way right now because it's easier. And then since I have this, yeah, this mask might not work. I'm trying to take this white spots off of the image because in a mask you don't want that to happen. It might work, we'll see. No, it won't work. Let me take the blur off of this. Where? Okay, this mask might actually work better now. The problem is that I'm changing that part as well. So you got to be careful whenever you change one node to another. Should be all right though. Plug this one here. And whenever we look at the normal map, it might be a mess. Let's see. No, actually works fine. A little bit better than was before. But now we have to tweak the terrain again. And since we have those masks over here, they are actually kind of too dark. So we go back to whatever we had in this mask again. Create levels a little bit higher brightness. And we click. Yeah, we're using those in here. There's probably other methods of creating what I'm creating right now. Just, if I had more time, I would probably not be doing this way anyway. Yeah, that looks a mess. See, it's just not getting where I want it to be. Thanks for your patience, guys. There you go. Now we can see some of the cobblestones. We just try to get them a little bit inside of. There you go. And now, you know, one of the things where I need to go forward after we have a break, I'm gonna go through the amount of erosion and amount of worn on top of the bricks. So you guys have a little bit more time. Have 5 minutes. I need to go use the restroom as well, and I'll be right back.
For $100? What's the VRAM? Oh. No matter. You can buy it for $100. Buy two. VRAM is like everything. The graphics card I have it like 30, 60. Yeah, man, that's a $2,000 graphics card. I'm gonna build it on later. I'm doing it. I'm buying gaming motherfuckers. What? Buying gaming motherfuckers. Why? Where are all these sales happening? Can you link that? Because I really need to start building. Because Jay's gonna buy my old one for 500. Really? Jay. Jay. Well, I'm gonna install Windows 8 on it for him. We're doing lots of tech support. Then forward the email. It's on Steam. Is it? What? What, my email? Just do that. Okay, so LPS 3D. It's like this is. Chris, very good. That's your hard drive back. Good. The only way that I found out was I actually watched Castle Yard. What? Yeah. How was that? 10 rents. It's what? 10 rents. 10 rents. I've never eaten there. The last time we were eating there, you ate with Holly. It's like 200 to get the painter and designer. It does remind me of the. Okay, so no, you can actually read it. It's exactly like that. It's just, I guess, a lot of the notes, the channel editors, like Glenn, I'm not sure. Most of the time you have to like type it in. The line is basically the word. No, I mean like switches. Oh. Most of you gotta type it in. I don't know if that's the same also. Or what? Are they like really angry or are they the same? Are they the same or is it like Wait, what?
I don't know where it went. Like if the uninstall is there, but I can't find the zip code to get to run. Yeah, I can't. I don't know where it went.
Oh. I watch smoke weeds all the time. I think I got two. I have running shoes. And then I don't know. Yeah. I don't know, man. I don't call you fat. I just think Reagan will do it for me. Exactly. That's what I would usually use. I would like everything to air source. I would make the exit ones, and then I would go and change all the masks. Yeah. I would go and I'll click you and make okay. Yeah. Honestly, I'm not gonna use it.
All right, guys, let's go back to this.
Yeah.
We're getting back pretty soon. give us like 3 minutes.
So when you were going over the other programs you've used for the procedural,
I'm sorry, what did you say?
when you were going over the other programs, like the textures, did you use any of the others? Like
We actually are. We're gonna talk about that later. There's gonna be a questions and answers time after whatever I present. Then you guys can come and ask me anything they want. Is that okay? Yeah, yeah.
no question. I can't ask.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
Do you think this is being more used in the industry?
I believe so. I can't, it's not an. I don't know exactly, but I believe so. Yeah, I think so. Or if it's not, it will. All right. Oh, sorry.
Did you learn not too long ago about the software? Where do you go to learn it?
I study myself. Home.
Like first, like you dive in.
Yep.
Let me get this straight.
Yep.
When it came to me,
I'm sorry. Yeah, I know. A lot of people are asking. No, 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 no. I'm sorry, man. It's I don't want to.
that they're white and I'm black, so let me get this.
Whoa.
All right, we're gonna jump back into the workshop. Afterwards, so people have questions.
Your question was very complicated. That's why. All right, guys. Let's go back to this, please. So while I was I was showing you guys that the forms of the cobblestone is actually something that is already there, and we can tweak as much as we want on it. But because of time, I won't just show you guys how to do other things on the texture itself. And one of the things that I pointed out is that I wanted to do is the amount of worn and how many some of the surfaces are a little bit bumpy and some of the surfaces are actually soft, right? And it's a very important thing for a cobblestone. So let's go back to Substance Designer. Let's try to do that out. In the first part of the tutorial where I was pointing out some things is, again, it's a very experimental thing. You're not going to be able to find the solutions right away. You might have to delete your whole graph and start from scratch. But the good thing about it is how much iteration you have in it. And I showed that many examples to you guys right now. So I believe that this proves the point. So let me find myself on my own graph. And then we're going to try to do a trick over here. So remember I created like a little pebble maker? So I'm going to use this pebble maker again. I'm actually organize this graph really quick because it's getting messier and messier. So just do a frame here. Just could call it pebble. Right. And these pebbles, we have a really nice stone surface in between them, and I can create a lot of stuff from it. So I'm going to use them. So I'm going to duplicate one of the pebbles. I'm going to put it down here. And this is actually the stone creation. So I'm going to be able to I'm going to delete this guy. I'm just going to select all these nodes. Last this. Create a frame for this as well. So this is the stone creation. I'm going to go down here with the pebble itself. Remember we had that pebble we created at the start. And I want to use the Make It Tile Patch Grayscale. And I'm going to plug this in right here. And you guys will see that I have some tricks that I can play with it that will probably get some forms of stone. Let me go relative to parent. There you go. I have the 2048 over here. I want this to be 2048 as well. Why is this not going out? Ah, I don't know why it's not going, but it's supposed to go more resolution than that. I think I locked inside of the node behavior, so let me check. There you go. That's correct. So if I save this, which is the Pebblestone Maker, the other one will probably, yeah, there you go. Now I have the resolution I want to. And what I want to do is create a very stone surface so I can subtract on top of the cobblestones and have that rough area and mask it to have some soft areas. So I'm going to use this first stone. I'm going to vary some things here so you guys can see. Create a little bit of disorder, create a little bit of size variation. The pattern, I'm going to make it bigger or smaller. A little bit more activation. The rotation variation as well. So I'm just going to quickly put a normal map here so you guys can understand what's going on, because usually it's hard to see what's going on without putting in a normal map. There. Create another one on top of it, but I'm going to use another pebble because I'm duplicating. And again, remember what we did for the rotation? Just going to use another one, which will give me a different kind of surface. And I want to activate this guy way more, so I'm going to have really small little details on that guy. I want the size variation to be larger. I have this little details going on top of each other. And again, a lot of other artists probably don't do the same thing as I do. Where I was just talking to Josh, the corridor, and he said like, "Oh, dude, oh my God, I do a completely different way, and it's fine. You can do your own way." But it's always good to see whatever other people are doing, right? So now that we have those two, I'm gonna plug this in on top of the other, and I'm gonna use or minimum or subtract. Let's check it out. Let's see which one looks better. I think subtract look a little bit better. We'll see. I'll activate this a little bit more. Maybe not this way. Let's try minimum again. Yeah, there you go. So you have like some kind of you know, a little bit of that feeling of broken or arid through the air, like it time into whatever the stone was. We can accent this a little even more. So I'm going to create Doctivates. I don't know if this goes higher. No, it doesn't. So if it doesn't, we are going to do something very fancy. I'm going to get this one. I'm going to pile on top of each other. So we have really small details. So you can see I'm reusing the same aspect of this and just creating another one on top. Could be the same settings or not, doesn't matter. Just to get even more details. I'll just do minimum because then I have the details on their on top. And with the normal map, you will see they have that kind of fractal kind of a rock formation, which is not necessarily too much rocky right now. Because it's not, then we keep tweaking until we find. I know, crazy stuff. Looks like an organic kind of skin. All right. And then what I want from this one, I'm going to create a blend of a noise on top of a kind of like a cloud in Photoshop, but they have that here on Substance. That will give me a little bit of more noise information. You can type here if you want to, so cloud. Actually, this cloud might not be that good of an idea. Check the other ones. Yeah, this one is better. So I'm gonna use subtract on this guy, and you can see how much of detail compared to this one had it. And plugging this to the daughter one, whenever we go to the normal map itself, there's way more noise detail going on top of things. So this is okay for now. I'm just gonna. You can keep playing with this and keep doing other things, but I'm just gonna keep doing like whatever I have to do. Um, gonna put a clouds tree on top of this. I'm gonna blend again. Just gonna use add sub, just a tiny little bit, not much. And whenever you go to the normal map, you have that kind of information there. By the way, this is not good. This is I would do better just at the fact of like I have to go keep going, or I'm not gonna be able to show everything to you guys. Getting a little bit better. Okay. So you have a lot of information going on here, and we want this to be on top of our cobblestones, right? So I'm gonna name this to be stone surface, I guess. Oops, sorry. What? Not being able to create a frame here. Give me 1 second.
Is Substance Designer or Substance kind of like the same as Crashing, like
Jeremy, you want to answer that question? Jeremy is actually guys from Jeremy is from Algorithmic, the creators of Substance, and I guess you want to answer his question. Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, I rarely crash. Rarely. It's pretty stable, way more stable than ZBrush per se. The ZBrush, yeah. I please Logic, don't blame me on this, or but it's true. All right, so I have the stone surface here. I'm just gonna comment this out. All right, let's put that in on top. Delete this normal map because we're not gonna use that anymore. You can see that the graph is getting bigger and bigger, right? That's why it's important to be organized with those frames, so you don't get lost. The more you work with the software, you're getting used to it. So and then I start creating like a little bit of that surface on top of the stones. And because I'm using subtract, It's only gonna get on the higher spots of the texture, and it's not necessarily gonna get on the bottom parts of the texture. You could use minimum as well if you wanted to. Actually, it's minimum, sorry, not subtract. So now that we have those details on top of the rock, you can see that now I have that stone surface that I created on the back there, and I'm putting that on top of my cobblestones. But I don't want it everywhere, right? So I want like to create a mask so it can have some parts being a little bit more softer, some parts not being so hard, not being so hardened. So I'm gonna create another clouds. I'm gonna create a level so I can actually levels now. I'm gonna use histogram scan. I like histogram scan more than levels. And we mask that out so we have some parts, as you can see, they're getting broken, and some parts are getting softer. Okay, so I'm gonna go back because I see that the stones could be a little bit bigger and fit into, and the holes are too small, too large, right? I mean, the grout needs to be a little bit less. So since we have in the stone creation right here, I can just, sorry, let me go to normal app again because let me do one thing. There's a way of creating a pin. So if I create a navigation pin here and I say, this is my normal map, right? Whoops. And I want to create the stone creation. I can create another pin over here. So stone creation. I can go back and forth in between those by pressing F2. So if I go F2, you see that I'm just, you know, so just so I don't get lost, it's really nice to see that they created that because a lot of people might have like graphs that are insanely big. So then I can just press on the normal map and come back to wherever my stone creation was. And now I can go to scale variation. I don't want too much, but I want more scale. Now I start getting like that little abrupt onto each other. So I want to try tweaking very slightly some things here. Give me a second. You see that it now starts getting blobby or they're touching each other. So you don't want that. You got to be careful about it. Let me try the stone scale variations too much. So I'm just going to bring it down. There you go. It's a little bit better. I have a limit that I can go here. So and I'm getting that blur part over here, then that's a problem. So we might will have to go to that part of the blur and just not have as much blur. Or even scale the rock so it doesn't touch right there. Yeah, there you go. A little bit better. And you can see that there's some of their popping or not. This is calculated by here, the levels itself. So if I change that a little bit, you see that some are gonna pop more or not. So all those subtle things actually make a difference, and you can tweak as much as you want. And the great thing is that it's interactive. It's pretty fast over here. All right. So now that I created, I don't want to go too much into whatever we need to do here. So I really want to just start the color part, where I think that you guys are probably more anxious than me, because normal map sometimes is very exhausting to see, to look at. Let me just tweak this a little bit more. And it's cool that we actually have the dirt going on top of things. That's pretty nice. All right, let's go to color. Um, it's a little bit difficult to do it that way, but let's try. I want to get all those graphs on top because then I start the color. It's going to be hard to find myself here. Just want to go 3D view and show you guys the 3D view of the cobblestone. And we can actually go and, because we have the high map over here, just going to do output of height. You guys will be able to see the parallax going on. The 3D viewer of the substance is pretty good. Gives you a lot of room for testing your materials. I'm going to add the material, and because I'm going to set up this as high map, on the relief amount, you guys can see that now my rocks have some kind of volume. So the cobblestone is getting to be a real thing. And you can test your tiling right there. So if I want to tile even more, you can see how much of your, cobblestones, or even like how much of your texture is tiling or not. Let me put a little bit of gloss on this guy because I think it's important. Usually cobblestones have that kind of shininess to it because of the stone being so rubbed on with shoes or anything that is on top, and the dirt is whatever actually has the dust, and the part of the grout has that little roughness parts, right? And you can calculate that through the high map. So I'm gonna do that really quick. Give me 1 second. I'm gonna get the height. Do a quick invert on the levels itself. Actually we have an invert node. If you type over here, it's like invert. You can just invert it, but I'm doing it on the levels because it's just another alternative. And here's the thing: the higher it is on a terrain or even like a cobblestone, I feel that the more it's smoother and shinier, right? So I'm just gonna do a little bit of that gloss. I mean, the roughness map of it. The white spots are more rough. That means less glossiness, less specular, less shininess. And I can just plug that into the roughness, which I'm gonna put into the roughness here. And you can see now that there's some parts of the cobblestones are like going very, very shiny, and some are not. So you can tweak that real time. But here's an example because you are supposed to. Yeah. Okay. You're supposed to actually have the masks of the cobblestones and play with those before we even get to that gloss map. So I just wanted to show you guys how it's possible just to tweak that here so you can see what's going on. All right, let's go to color. So to create color, I like to use the normal map, the high map of the graph, and then I just create an ID mask, which I call ID mask, which is pretty much the separation in between the stone itself and the dirt. So let's create that real quick. I'm gonna create from the high map here, create this guy, create a gradient map. In on color, over here because of this gradient map. I'm just plugging this from the high map to the gradient map. I can pretty much go to the peak gradient over here. I'm just gonna drag and drop real quick this guy from that reference that we have. Pardon me if the screen is kind of small or big. You can have this peak gradient, and I'm gonna just drag and drop a line just for fun, just to grab some of the color references, which is because you're doing directly from the reference. Of course, because if it has lighting on this, you want to be a little bit darker. So you're just gonna grab that guy down, grab that guy down a little bit. I'm sorry. Yes, yes. Any screenshot or any photo or anything like that. So if you go to Google and type like rock, you'll be able to get that gradient. So like, let me give you another example. So if I get this gradient and just drag and drop that line through all of the thing, you see that you get all that information. Do we want that? No. We want to try at least getting a little bit of the color, but not much. So I'm just gonna drag from one stone to another, and you already get a lot of it. And the cool thing about it is there's this noise precision. If you go higher, you're gonna kill a little bit of that a little bit of that grunginess. But you're still gonna have some detail. I'm just gonna delete some of them. But let's say because we have so many colors here, I don't want to go every single color and I don't want to put it darker or darker and darker. Why do we have that since we already have, the iterative process of being able to tweak things here? So I'm going to use an AJSL, which is hue, saturation, and lightness, and I'm just going to tweak that here. So I'm going to be able to tweak my colors of the cobblestone itself right there. Now I need the screen to be maximized. So yeah, so like I'm just putting the color of the cobblestone. You can see that some of them are lighter, and this is because of whatever it's higher here, you want it to be not so much. So just bring that color down. Let me click on this. So you can see now that we can even create textures from this. And at the moment, I'm only getting worried about the cobblestone. Forget about the dirt. The dirt we're gonna do after, okay? And since I have this, I want to create some kind of a noise information on top of it, right? And to do that, there's two things you can do. So I'm gonna bring BW2 spot, which is this guy, and I'm gonna put another gradient map after it. Again, same idea of the color, gradient editor, get the reference that you want. This time I want to do a little bit larger gradient, so I'm just going to drag and drop so you have that kind of information going on. I don't want so much of the spotchiness, so you can see I'm just trying to create that little noisy aspect of it. And I'm going to create another one. Let me choose another noise creation over here. They have pretty much a lot of grunge maps. I just usually don't like using the grunge maps because they're heavy. So you want to create, your own grunges if you want to. It's not loading the icons. That's the problem. There you go. This is a good one. And I'm going to copy and paste the same gradient over here. And you can see that the color is a little bit different. So let me maximize this now. But you don't want to have this amount of colors on that guy. So we're just gonna optimize this one. And you can see what's going on back there, right in the texture. Careful to not look too procedural. You want to try to have a little bit of believability on it, but the believability will come whenever you start blending things together, right? And this is one of the things I like to do about it. It's just try bringing some information, and the more of those that you do, the more a texture is going to look like. Let me bring another one. There you go. And then I'm going to blend this guy together as well. Maybe we can just use on like an add sub, so creates a little bit more variation to it. And now that we have this, we can perhaps overlay this on top of the other one. So you can see now that you're having a little bit of that texturing phenomenon on top of the rocks, on the stones. And if you put that on the collar, which is right here, you're going to be able to see that in 3D view right there. Get really close to it. All right. So we want to try now to mask the grout part and create a dirt. I don't like this too much because it's like kind of going to brown thing. So I just want to create another HSL and desaturate this texture. And desaturate this one as well. Actually, I'm going to desaturate the other one. One second. There you go, a little bit better. Looks more like stone to me. All right. And let's get the mask from the grout, which is the difficult part. Sometimes I get how to do it and sometimes I don't. So we can try to fake it as much as we can. Because we have this, right? And it's the height of the stone, we want to divide this one with the one that we have for the terrain. Let me try this out again, and for a long time I don't do this, so bear with me if this fails. I think it's working. Let me do a histogram. Let me do medium icons, or I'm not going to be able to read anything. I'm going to contrast that guy as much as I can. So what it means is I'm creating that mask from in between the cobblestones to the terrain. Let's see if this works, because it's easy to see how it works actually. It's just a matter of putting one color as a test. I'm going to put like a pink color and just blend it in between whatever I have for the texture itself or not. So I'm going to bring in a color, which is pink. Orange. Okay, fair enough. Doesn't really matter. And blending this two, if I have the invert of this, that's what's going to mask on the grout. All right. So I don't know if that actually is gonna work, so I'm gonna have to try and test it on the 3D view. I was lucky, I guess. So, um, and because we have this, we can just like test this as much as we want, and just like get the contrast and just do the position and see if it actually matches the floor or not. So if you had, like, let's say the dirt going on top, you will be able to see that on the 3D view. And as you can see, we actually had, so you can see that the dirt was right there, and it's just the divide function that actually enables you to do that. All right. So this is a test. So let's do the dirt color, and I'm actually going to use this mask for the glossiness part, because the glossiness is actually shining everything. We don't want that, right? We want the dirt to be very rough. So I'm going to use that mask to actually do that over here. I'm going to put a blend on this. I'm going to do a mask for this guy. I'm going to put another color. I'm going to put like a white, because dirt is pretty much dirt. And white is rough. So you want to do that. There you go. And you can see the iterative process of this is quick. It's not something that you have to paint the mask or anything like that. It's just the information is right there for you. And whenever we go back to the 3D view, you'll see that now the dirt is rough enough, and the pebbles are, I mean, the stones are actually shiny, and that's what you want. Now, to do the dirt, I like to do the same way, and I'm actually going to copy this out and use the dirt for this. I'm going to do another blend with this guy. And again, I'm trying to do this as quick as I can because we don't have much time anymore. Let me use, I'm going to use levels. And dirt, whenever you look at dirt itself, it's actually lighter than the cobblestone. Cobblestone has a very dark color information. It only is lighter for you because the lighting is actually what's making that lighter. Okay, and if dirt is actually even higher than whatever the cobblestone is, but it's just darker because of the shadowing of it. And we're gonna create an ambient occlusion on top of things just so you guys can see how the grout gets darker. I'm gonna change the color of the dirt really quick. I'm not liking this too much, so I'm just gonna levels, red channel. Nope. Yeah. Didn't crash. Yeah, good times, guys. Yep. Let's save it. Good timing. Good timing. Thank you. Um. Yeah, I'm just gonna tweak as much as I can to get like a dirt pass. Doesn't have to be amazing, but and then I can actually use the dirt height that we had here and just create some color from it, right? But I don't need necessarily to create height from it. I'm just going to overlay this information on top of whatever I had on the other dirt. I'm just going to bring that guy in. And this, there's one of the things about Substance Designer. He thinks about nodes that are color and nodes that are grayscale, and they don't work with each other for because of a math problem. It's not necessarily their fault. It's just a math problem. So you have to convert the grayscale nodes into something that is color, or you're gonna get that red line right there. I'm gonna put a little bit of color into this because I think it's cool. Again, you don't have to do it by getting a reference, you can just do your own. There you go. Let me connect this guy. And now I'm going to do an overlay. Have some kind of a color differentiation on the dirt itself, which, we can tweak this more and more. We're just going to plug that in to see how it looks. And since we already had that mask already done, we're just going to plug into the blend instead of orange because it's ugly. We're going to have dirt over there. So you can see now in 3D, we have the dirt in between the stones. All right. And again, you can keep going forward with this. You can keep like doing a lot of the passes of the color, varying things until you get something that you feel that is you're confident that is believable. Um, I'm just gonna do some adjustments on the gloss, but we're kind of at the end of it. So let me there you go, and we can see that now that we have that kind of variation of the glossiness. If I put that more, you'll see that it will go less or it will go higher. And you can see that why the actually cobblestones are brighter. And naturally, you wouldn't have that bright. You would have even darker. Cobblestones will be very dark. You can see it that way. Especially like Portuguese styles. If you see in references, it's pretty dark like that. And the beauty of it is, what if I want to come back and differentiate the scale of things? I can always go back to the whole part of the stone creation and just scale things up and down, or go and differentiate the scale variation, the offsetting. So for example, if I go to the 3D view now, I'm actually going to maximize that a little bit more. You guys will see that if I offset this random, it might actually break the graph because it was different on the blur side. But there you go. You can see that I just changed a little bit of the forms of it. But because we created other tiles in the path, we're gonna have to create and just do change the offset random on every single one of them. But it just give you an interesting idea of how uh, beautiful it is to create procedurally textures. And the more details, the more things you put on top of this, the more believable we can get. Right now, it looks procedural. To be honest, in my personal view, it does not look like something that you are going to be okay with it in the industry. You have to tweak more and more until you get a better result. But for now, I believe that's what I wanted to show. So thank you very much. I appreciate it. And I guess we're gonna go through the questions and answers. And if you guys have like any questions or you guys want to see something, please let me know. I'm
So you're
gonna.
do like 5 more materials instead.
Holy cow!
You said bye to the screen people.
Just a really yeah. Just say goodbye. There. A really small sense of why I believe this is not good. Okay, I'm gonna actually criticize myself because I think it's